Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Stephen Matthew Woolfolk-Bonner on the show. He's an award-winning creator, visionary, devoted father and son with a story that spans coast to coast. He's the founder and CEO of The YUniverse. That's awesome. I love it. So welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thank you for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
Okay, first, how'd you get that name? That's awesome.
Stephen Matthew Woolfolk-Bonner, or you mean the company?
The company name.
Yes. It all started with the overall intention of helping people in a different way. I was originally a pharmaceutical representative, although being a farmer would be pretty cool nowadays. And this is at the height of the opioid epidemic, and around 2017 or so. And I am tasked throughout the valley and meeting different physicians, different family practices, and pitching them on different products that they can benefit from. They can get some money out of. Now, that led to me not really feeling as though I am fulfilling my purpose here on earth. Every day, I don't know if you remember seeing on the news, every day there's a bunch of different cases of people becoming addicted, people overdosing, all just terrible things. And so I actively was looking for a different way to help. Meanwhile, my girlfriend at the time was having some serious panic attacks and anxiety attacks. And I really did not know how to help her. I just knew I didn't want to push her the traditional medical route, simply because at that point I saw from the back end what was going on and how it just wasn't as genuine as I imagined it would be. And so did some research into holistic wellness, did some research into herbalism, and found a few different herbs that may be able to help curb those panic attacks and hopefully keep them from even occurring. And so we did some trial and error with different herbs such as chamomile, lavender, blue lotus flower, damiana, nettle, all these different herbs that I had never been taught that they could actually do something for your body. Growing up, I just assumed people drink tea because they believed it tastes good. And at a certain point it does, but really, there's a whole connection between food and how we charge ourselves, how we power, how we take in nutrients that has kind of been lost, at least that I found. And so
I agree. People are a little out of touch with a lot of those practices. I mean, lavender and chamomile, a lot of those are evening teas for a reason.
Exactly. There's a whole... there's superpowers that associated with each of these herbs. And when you understand how to utilize these herbs, your body can really, really benefit from it. One of the things I saw during my time as a pharmaceutical representative was how nutrient deficient the population is. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's everywhere. Now, why is that happening? If we're eating more food than ever before, why are we so nutrient?
We're eating garbage, empty calories.
Garbage. We've been taught and instructed to eat garbage. And another way I like to think of it is you wouldn't try to use applesauce to charge your MacBook or to charge your iPhone, would you? Probably not, because it won't charge it the way it needs to. And so same thing with food. And after us discovering that, or really becoming familiar with herbs and herbalism and holistic wellness, where go figure, your mind actually matters. What you see, what you hear, and what you think about actually plays into how you feel every day. And there's a huge connection there. Why wasn't I taught that growing up? And so all of that led to us trying a few different herbs and a few different practices. And ultimately, my partner studied at a school in Tempe, Arizona named SWIHA, which is Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, where they go into alternative medicine, or even a better term would be Eastern medicine, led to me creating a company with the intention of teaching and helping people not only be a part of a community that is focused on bettering themselves and just being surrounded by other people that are trying to better themselves, but also teaching them nervous system regulation, which to me is one of the core things in how you can come back to balance. If imagine jumping in a pool and getting out of the pool and you're always wet. You weren't able to come back to your natural state, which is dry, without using a towel or anything. I think of that the same way I think of nervous system regulation. If you get angry or things trigger you and you don't have the tools or know how to utilize the tools to bring yourself back to your homeostasis, that'd be a problem. And so we focus on teaching people nervous system regulation, emotional regulation, and emotional intelligence, which the way I like to think of it is we're helping people with their tool belt. Now, once you have the tools, you can utilize that in any moment. And that ultimately, long story short, is how we came up with the universe. Is something, there's a connection between you and I that has been lost. And that connection between you and I, where I see myself in you and I see myself in every other person. Now we're talking about an ecosystem. Now we're talking about a one-minded connection between me and everybody. And to me, that kind of sounded like the universe. So that's how we named it the universe.
Okay. And for our listeners, it's universe. It's a big capital Y and then capital universe. Okay. Okay. On that tool belt should also be the off button for a lot of the negative stimuli that we put into our lives that can freak us out too. Just watching the news nowadays is designed to elicit those sort of stresses.
If we think about well, why is it designed that way? Everything in our society, if we look at it from a bird's eye view, looks like there's kind of a cycle. An industry, what is an industry if we really think about it? It's a conglomerate of different businesses all solving, ideally, a problem. Now, a business is only successful if they have what? Return customers. You've never heard of any business being successful without return customers. And so when we start looking at these individual things, it kind of paints a picture of, okay, I'm told to eat certain things via the pyramid, the food pyramid, right? Those certain things lead to annual sickness. Now, it's not just the food. You also have the other pillars of what we watch. You just mentioned the news. Millions of Americans watch the news every day, leaving them in this chronic state of stress. One of the things that we are huge on is the two systems, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. A great way to think of them is one of them is for your fight or flight, which is your sympathetic nervous system. Now, imagine watching the news every day. Now you're kind of in this heightened state of, things are going bad. That's a terrible place to be in over a long period of time.
Chronically, yeah.
Chronically, that leads to illness. And we've never been taught that. So that is one of our big goals, is to teach people, but not only teach them, but to show them and to surround them with community. That's another thing that's very important. I don't know what your experience has been since COVID, but I think we've all kind of noticed the lack of connection that is in our day-to-day lives.
Right.
One of the biggest things now is loneliness. Oh my goodness. it's permeating in every aspect of our lives. Loneliness is one of the biggest reasons why illnesses turn from an illness to a disease, because we, one, don't have that support system. And then along with that, we're eating certain things, we're watching certain things. So it's all kind of like a big melting pot of sickness. And we want to help curb that for the future of healthcare. We believe combining preventive healthcare, which would be traditionally known as Eastern medicine, and then utilizing the modern medicine or Western medicine. And those two together can change your trajectory of how you feel and how you are each and every day.
Right. Yes, we're more connected than ever, and yet lonelier than ever. Right. All these shallow 2,000 friends we have, and you mentioned not just the news, but in food, the same thing works, right? Because we dictate the market with our money, right? And so without knowing, right, we're starting to see more Whole Foods and Sprouts and these other sort of providers of unprocessed food, because the demand is finally going up because people are getting educated. But for the most part, we like things that are salty and sweet and that crunch at a certain ratio. And that's what they give us, right? And then to engineer all that, they strip out all the healthy parts. But so it's kind of on us for consuming it and being the buyer. But now we have to, as you say, we have to sort of flip that and educate people so we can use our buying power to dictate some. Unless we could legislate healthiness, which generally doesn't work very well. We do have nutritional labels. We make people, show on packages, but that's about it.
But here's the thing, though, because I agree with you. It is on us, but up until this point, we have not had the education. Right? We didn't even know there was a problem. We just saw when we wake up and we're 70 and we're like, wait a minute, if things aren't working right, what's going on? And then even look at what's allowed to be consumed in this country. Something as simple that has been in the news recently from Robert F. Kennedy. He's talked about this Jr. a couple times. But if you even just look at cereal, if we look at the cereal in America compared to even Canada or Europe specifically, and we look at the ingredients, we have, if you take Fruit Loops, for example, there's like 28 ingredients. Now, if you go to Canada, you get the exact same Fruit Loops. There's only 2 ingredients. Like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But there's been an incentive because of the oils, the seed oil companies and the lobbying firms. They're all pushing our government to incentivize them to use these cheaper ingredients that then lead to people, or in this case, children, eating these things and then getting these cravings, getting these sicknesses, these illnesses that 100 years ago weren't even around. I mean, if we're getting better technologically speaking every year, why are we getting sicker every year? That if we're all at a balanced state, we can think about these things of like, why is this happening? But when you're in the midst of it, when you're in your sympathetic state, your fight or flight state, you can't even think about that.
Right? Right. You're just reactive.
Exactly. You're in a reactive state as opposed to being proactive state. Nobody wants to be on defense all 24/7. If we're playing football, it's exhausting. You don't want to play defense the whole time. You want to have some time to be on offense. So it's a great way to, or simple way to look at it.
Right. So when you mentioned earlier too about sort of the goal of being one with everybody and everything, that's kind of basically what I've heard from the most successful, what's the word? They're self-actualized, right? They seem to be, right. This is I mean, not just Gandhi, but there's Buddha and everything. It's this realization. I think the last thing I saw, I think it was it was a Jim Carrey speech, but it's these people who are very introspective, who have the time to really dial in, right? They've gotten rid of all those other challenges, right? On the Maslow's pyramid of needs, right? It's safety, security, shelter, food, right, and all this stuff, and then it's the top is you have the time to be introspective and figure out what's it all about, and you realize it's not about you. And you are everyone else. Yes, that's a very inspiring goal. Pardon?
You feel that as well? When you look at or when you walk around throughout your daily life, do you see someone and feel, that's a brother, that's a sister?
I try to.
Okay.
I try to. There are days I get reactive, but right. So that is sort of the goal, right? To be more empathetic and emotionally intelligent, as you said. It's something particular in our day and age where people are so sequestered, they are getting lonelier, and they're out of touch, and their emotional intelligence is kind of at a low on average for our culture, and which is a crazy important thing considering how important with AI and all these technological advances. The biggest skills are probably going to be human skills, and managing and leading people, and that's where emotional intelligence is going to be huge.
Absolutely. Just a few weeks ago, we were training a company here in the Valley on the importance of how a manager speaks to his employees or her employees. That changes everything. If somebody feels connected or feels as though, you know what, this person cares. This person cares. They're not just trying to grill me. They care. That can be a complete 180 from them feeling as though there's no connection here. This is extremely transactional job, position. Now, the second it hits 5, I'm off. I'm done. That's in the contract. Nobody wants to go further than they need to. And what we've noticed is, and it just logically makes sense, when your cup is full, you now have the capacity or the bandwidth to now focus on filling other people's cups.
Right.
It changes everything, you know?
Yep. And that's why perhaps a lot of I've seen studies of millennials and stuff, but they really want impact and meaning in their work because they don't really, maybe they don't get it elsewhere. I don't know, but that's more than salary. They want a job with a why, with a mission that they can get behind.
Yeah. If we think about it, like in school, as you're growing up, you have this sense of purpose, whether you're working on a science project, whether you're on a baseball team, whether X, Y, Z. But once you get into quote unquote the real world, there's this perception that all of a sudden all of those needs and a sense of purpose go out the window. Now your purpose is wherever you're working, which that's just not true. You spend more time at this job than you do with your family, than you do on your personal endeavors. And if you have no sense of purpose in this place, or you don't have a sense of belonging in this place, we're all really just big children. We all still need that feeling of belonging, that feeling of being heard, that feeling of purpose. That doesn't go away as we get older. If anything, it's more important.
Right. Start realizing the material goods are not where it's at, and they're not very fulfilling. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So how does the universe help people with all that?
So the universe currently is teaching people through programs, our courses, our MBSR courses, which is mindfulness-based stress relief. And then we also have our resources such as our sound baths, our meditations, our breath works, all different techniques and things that people can listen to or practice themselves by listening to it as well on their own time. We train different corporations currently just in the Valley, but expanding weekly as well. And then we also are writing books, things that can help teach kids before we move into our next phase, which is going to the physical schools and teaching kids these different things, the different resources that they can use, making them aware of their emotions. What are you feeling right now? Oh, why do you think you're feeling that? It's all about bringing awareness to this. We're not rediscovering anything. These things have been out there, but sometimes when you package it in a different way, it can make all the difference. Like the way I like to think of it is BlackBerry phones versus an iPhone. They do the same thing. They had the option for touchscreens and the software and everything, but it's just packaged in a different way.
Okay. And kind of like teas, right? We forget. We need to be reminded of some of the more fundamental basic things. And you have some books for the kids too, don't you?
We sure do. So we have our Christmas book, which is, there's a new tradition in town. It's called Joya, the Magical Gingerbread. She is all about empowering kids with affirmations and letting them know that they belong. And so that's a great book for children who are ages 0 to 10, I'd say. Just showing them a new tradition of making gingerbreads and doing it with their friends and family and feeling as though they're loved and affirmed. Our other book is called Jan, the Sleepy Koala. Both of these books can be purchased anywhere in the world, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target. But Jan, the Sleepy Koala is about this koala bear who is having trouble sleeping. At some point, we've all felt that. And so Jan goes to different animals and speaks to them and asks them how they can help him to fall asleep, only to find out, really, he is the only one that can do it for himself. So it is a beautiful journey into sleeping and to realize that you have all the power within yourself.
Okay, excellent. And so that you're planning on in I don't know what's the next 12, 18 months doing more of a launching a child program to the schools or what tell us about that.
Absolutely. Great question, by the way. So we are going to be partnering with a few different school districts throughout Arizona, then piloting our program, which is teaching the kids not only the different nervous system regulation tools and emotional tools, but also tools that they can use any day. So, for example, a simple breath that everybody can practice on their own time is called a 4, 6, 8. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 6, and then you exhale for 8 seconds. And what that does is the parasympathetic nervous system is all about, a good way to remember it is called rest and digest. And what that means is when you do that breath a few times in a row, you're going from a fight and flight, which is your sympathetic state, to a parasympathetic state, which is your rest and digest. You're telling your body internally, it is now safe to rest and digest. It is now safe to calm the energy down. Sometimes you can be in an anxious state where you're panicking or you're just overly nervous. That's normal. That happens. What's not
and good sometimes.
And it's good. It's necessary. It's a reason why your body has that. Thousands of years ago, when we were out there with wild animals and fighting off orangutan and tigers, that was necessary. You had to have it.
Well, even now with deadlines and stuff, sometimes it's good. It helps you get stuff done.
Absolutely. But but you stay there. That's where the problem comes in. So it's extremely important to know how to come back to your balanced state, your homeostasis point. And so that we're teaching children that so that now as they grow up, it just will be a part of their overall tool belt. Something that we weren't taught, or at least I wasn't taught growing up.
Yeah, that's great. So have you been able to implement this program in the schools in the Valley here yet?
We've piloted in a couple of different schools, but now we're looking to partner with different districts to do it across our whole array of schools. We're also partnering with the Scottsdale Public Library to do a couple of different reading sessions, storytelling sessions to further foster that connection with the children, as well as hosting a few different events, community events that everybody is welcome to with natural grocers. And there's an event in December called Ultimate Family Playdate, where it will be centered around these different things as well.
Okay. Excellent. Well, it sounds like things are going really well for you and the business. That's great. Side tangent, pivot, whatever you want to call it here, is how are you looking towards the future and possibly investing in your future? Right. This can be financial investments. It can be, to maybe generate passive income or replace your active income, but also investing in the future impact of Phoenix. Right. So you have multiple programs going on for your business, but also personally. Can you speak to any of that?
Absolutely. On a professional level, we are leading the next wave of healthcare. And the reason I phrase it like that is because we're hosting this event on January 23rd with a company called Venture Cafe. They do weekly events for networking purposes, but this one is focused on, and the whole theme is the future of healthcare. Something preventive and traditional or modern medicine to change how healthcare is in America. So that's one aspect. Another one is we are now getting into diversifying our portfolio when it comes to investments. So now we have been all in on Bitcoin.
Oh boy.
As a storage of value. And I'm sure some people have seen recently the interest in it, whether
back up,
whether it's governments, whether it's individual states, whether it's certain countries, El Salvador, Poland is now joining, and Bhutan. So we're seeing a fundamental shift in how the banking system will be in the future. And it's always important to catch these little nuggets as they're happening. I remember the first time I heard about Bitcoin, it was 2016. And one of my friends that asked me, "Man, have you heard of Bitcoin?" I was like, what's a Bitcoin? Do you eat that? Or what is that? And he told me about it. And ever since then, I've been infatuated with the idea of decentralized money that is no longer associated with a government. You do not have to go through any one person. So that's one of the biggest things we see for the future is a decentralization of these different assets and how that can ultimately change how we interact daily with each other and how our finances are lined up. So, yeah.
Okay. You're a big Bitcoin fan.
I am a avid believer in taking back the power.
All right. Is it other sort of blockchain or currencies, or is it are you just focused on Bitcoin?
No, there's other ones. There's smaller coins. I think a great analogy to think of it is, what was the internet like in 1998? There was Microsoft. I think there was Google and maybe a couple other companies. And then once the dot-com bubble popped, you saw a lot of them fall out. A lot of them didn't make it. But you also did see a huge influx into massive companies. I mean, Netflix was trying to sell themselves to Blockbuster, for goodness sake, in 2003 or so. And thinking about it now, you're like, why on earth would they ever try to sell it? But it's because we're seeing it go from physical to digital. We're seeing the same thing happen in money as well. And what that looks like in the future is everything good and bad. It's not only good when you're talking about digitizing everything, that it comes with a lot more regulation. Now, if for example, in China, if you speak ill of the government, guess what? No access to internet. And guess what? You can't buy anything anymore. So a lot more things could get shut down, but with technological advancements, there's always going to be some drawbacks. It's just making us aware, making yourself aware of what those potential drawbacks will be. Now set yourself up for being able to maneuver around.
Okay. But to the question of Ethereum, do you have any interest in other currencies?
Yes, Solana. Solana is another one I'm very big on. I'm not actually as big on Ethereum as some other people. I do think it has a lot of value. I think it's a little slow. Solana is a faster, safer, more underutilized asset right now that has a lot more growth potential.
Okay.
Well, it's working as well.
Okay. Regardless, it's always exciting to see the adoption in other countries as
absolutely
things progress. All right. I like to ask people a reflection question, right? What do you wish you knew earlier about wealth and success earlier in your career?
That's a great question. I wish I knew what game I was in.
Okay, you got to elaborate on that.
I think that when you are growing up, when you're going from 0 to 10 or 10 to 20, you're in this, you're coming from the perspective that life is just life. And then when you go from 20 to 30 and 30 to, 40 or 40 to 50, you realize somewhere in there that you're in a game. You're in a game, and now you know the cards that you have been dealt. How are you going to use them? The earlier you can realize that you're in a game of life, the faster you can learn the rules and regulations, the faster you can get onto the track of success and wealth. Wealth doesn't just happen like that for most people. It's not given to them for most people. Most people have to figure out earlier how the game is played and what they need to do. And also that you're not going to get or achieve wealth working a 9 to 5. If that is your goal, you need to look at some other avenues as well. Not saying quit your 9 to 5, but if your goal is to achieve wealth, generational wealth specifically, there's going to be some other things that you're going to have to do.
Right. That multiple streams of income is a common thread amongst the wealthy.
Absolutely. And making money in your sleep.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to stop trading your time for money and start getting your money working for you.
1,000%. Most people aren't taught that growing up.
No, we're taught to be good little W-2 workers. Yeah. They teach you how to pay your bills and write on a check, or at least they used to. They probably don't do that anymore. But they never taught you how to invest it.
Exactly, and there's a reason for that. If I'm a CEO of a company, I'm not exactly teaching my employees how to diversify their because that takes away from my company. So same thing when it comes to America. So just a different way to look at it. It's a mindset shift.
Yes, I agree. Okay, thank you. And if people would like to learn more about the universe or you, where can they find you? What do they do?
So they can reach out to the universe, www.theyuniverse, spelled with the Y, THEYUNIVERSE.org. Or you can find us on any social media platform as well, The Universe, spelled with the Y. Or I'll even give you an opportunity to reach us via our email, yourfriends@theuniverse.earth.
Nice. I wish that it's CEO of the Universe. What a treat to have you on the show.
And be welcomed. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening and for watching. Thank you Stephen Matthew Woolfolk-Bonner, for joining us and sharing your insights today. Very much appreciate it.
I appreciate you, and everybody, stay back.
Stay balanced.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.